Hi there, guys. This is Lewis here from the God Squad. I'm joined here today with two of my very good friends. We have Dean
Hello.
and we have Jack.
Hello.
So today, basically, what we're going to be doing, the football transfer window has just shut here in England. I say here in England, over the border in England, and basically we're just going to sit here and have a little chat about it for a little while and sort of give our thoughts on the window overall and who we think has come out of it looking good. So Dean, we'll start with you. As far as clubs go, as far as clubs go, what do you think? Who do you think's done well?
Who's done well?
Who's your biggest winner coming out of this window?
Biggest winner? I would probably go. I'd probably have to say, just in terms of pure quality, it's got to be Chelsea for the amount of money they've spent there. I mean, I know Werner at the time of recording is yet to score, but quality striker there. Kai Havertz, like a hell of a talent. They fixed their goalkeeping situation potentially with Mendy. Ben Chilwell, quality addition, and then Ziyech, Sarr, and Thiago Silva, all decent signings, be it Thiago Silva's a bit on the other side. Yeah, I mean, they also managed to get rid of a lot of players taking up a lot of the wage budget, in my opinion. So, like, Bashwai, obviously, he's back on loan at Palace. Costa's away on loan. Villa took Barkley off their hands. Loftus-Cheek went on loan. They managed to do quite a very good business, in my opinion.
Yeah, I kind of agree. They're not who I would have as the biggest winners, but I can definitely see why you've went that way.
In terms of just like excitement of the players, like
Yeah, no, I get you.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of hype.
Yeah,
A lot of hype, yeah.
Don't get me wrong. This time in say 6 months' time, I could be completely going. Chelsea have had the worst transfer window as they will flop. But
well, yeah, that's I guess something we need to say, isn't it? That this is all just based on paper because we don't know how well all this is going to go down and what's going to age well and what's not. So it's just a sort of gut reaction on what we've seen so far.
Not to mention they might still add, as you know, the window for the domestic league is still open until October 16th.
That's true.
So you never know; they might get some young and upcoming talent from the championship or whatever to add to their ranks. But
Jack,
you never know.
Do you agree? Do you agree with Chelsea? Or
I think they're up there. Whether or not they turn out to be the best, yet to decide. Because I feel Everton have probably done a bit better.
Yeah, I feel
in terms of what they've brought in, especially with the money spent comparatively as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Like the value for money is far more with Everton than it is with Chelsea in terms of just overall spend.
Yeah, I would agree. I think Everton are a much more obvious choice for the biggest winners out of this.
To clean out your entire midfield.
Yeah.
And restructure it with James Rodriguez of all people at Everton. Well, it goes a long way.
That's it. They've brought in players like James Rodriguez, who already in the first 4 games of the season has been pivotal to them. Ben Godfrey from Norwich on deadline day, that could be a hell of a signing.
Yeah, right. That
was 30 million, wasn't
it? 25, I believe.
Fair enough.
But yeah, it was around about that mark. It wasn't a lot of money. Obviously, James Rodriguez, probably the bargain of the window.
I agree that the Everton have had a very good window as well. To be honest, for me, it was a hard.
Yeah, no, I think there's a few teams that have had good wins. Also for Everton, you've of course got people like Allen coming in from Napoli.
Yeah, they've got Decore from Watford as well.
Yeah, Decore. So they've you're right. They've pretty much completely overhauled their midfield, and it's shown so far. With what?
Like they got rid of Schneiderlin early in the window as well.
Well, yeah, it's Schneiderlin. Leighton Baines retired, so I guess that's something that they got off the books. But
Well, it's Moise Kean to PSG.
Yeah,
on loan.
Moise Kean
Walcott.
and Theo Walcott on deadline day were both pretty big outs for them. Definitely cleared up quite a substantial amount of their wage budget, that's for sure.
So would you say, in your opinion, Lewis, that they were your top choice as well, or did you have anyone else in mind?
I actually had well, there was a couple of teams. I'm between a few. So I guess right. Okay, what I'll do here is I'll give an honourable mention. So I think Aston Villa have had a great transfer window.
I can see that.
Totally agree.
They haven't brought in huge names of the other clubs that we spoke about. But Ollie Watkins from Brentford, he obviously scored his hat-trick against Liverpool at the weekend there. He looked real good. Bertrand Traore from Lyon. Ross Barkley from Chelsea could be a good signing if he keeps performing the way he did against Liverpool.
I mean, Emi Martinez has been fantastic so far as well. Why
Yeah,
Arsenal
well-
let him go was
Well, that's it.
probably just for first-team football.
They pretty much they had quite a big issue with goalkeepers last year. So the fact that they brought in a goalkeeper that they obviously feel they can rely on all season round is a pretty good thing. So
I mean, good signs definitely. The only question with Aston Villa is if they can maintain it, isn't it?
I mean,
like-
even then, I think they've still
Yeah, no.
they've
I
got
mean,
rid
like,
of a lot of
Barkley's-
players as well. Like a one that people won't really realise. The only reason I see it as a good out for them is because I know about the player because he's an ex-Motherwell player, and that's Ross McCormack. But he was on £50,000 a week at the end of his contract.
Right, he
So
got released then.
yeah, so getting him off the wage bill, that's £50,000 a week. That's huge. I think they've had a good window. But I would have to say that I think the team that have done best, in my opinion, would actually be Spurs.
The Spurs are definitely up there.
So obviously Højbjerg's come in from Southampton and so far has been incredible. He's really solidified that Tottenham midfield that was decent before but not great. Matt Doherty at the back, his extra cover at right back, a position that they've not been very strong at the last couple of years. Joe Hart, I mean, decent backup for Gazaniga and Lloris. It's a little bit of extra competition in there for sure. And then, of course, the big one's Gareth Bale, isn't it?
I felt you were avoiding that one, saving it to last.
Yeah, leave it till last. Yeah, Gareth Bale's the big one.
Such a gamble, though, isn't he? I guess now.
I mean,
That's the only thing.
he's kind of a gamble, but he's a class player, so I don't see it being too much of an issue. They can get some fitness under. Mourinho's a good enough manager to he won't just chuck him back in the team for the sake of it because he's a big name.
Well, they say he's not going to be fully fit until about November, is it? You
Well,
reckon?
yeah, probably not. He's not played football for about a year.
The
They've
thing
also
is,
added Paulus Vinicius from Benfica on loan as well, just to give.
They have, yep. And
that,
God, I'm
in
going
that
to butcher this guy's name, but Sergio Reguilon from Real Madrid. I think they've strengthened everywhere they really needed to strengthen. So
yeah, just on about Bale as well. It's one of these players. Even if he isn't what he was when he left Spurs, if he comes back at half of that player, he's still going to walk into at least half of the Premier League sides as a starter every single week. So to have him there, I can't imagine they're paying his whole wages either. To be honest, on a loan deal.
I wouldn't have thought so, but you never know. This is Real Madrid we're talking about, so you know. But I wouldn't have thought that Spurs would be willing to pay his entire wage.
Not unless they get him at the end of it.
Well, yeah, even then, it's a lot of money to pay for a player that isn't fully fit.
I can't even imagine how much he's done.
Yeah, no, it was a lot of money.
Easily $250,000, 300,000 a week, minimum.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I think. Yeah, I would say Spurs, but I think there's been a few that have had really good windows. I kind of think Arsenal had a decent window as well. I think they pretty much saved it on deadline day by bringing in Party from Atletico Madrid.
Aside from that, though, they had a decent transfer window, like up until then. Anyway, obviously getting Willian on a free,
Yeah, no,
which is a
that's
fantastic deal in of itself,
It
and
is.
Ceballos coming back again on loan.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Gabriel shows up their defense, which I mean, their defense still needs work. Don't get me wrong, but it's already looking far more assured than it was.
Yeah, definitely. I think they'd had a good window before, and I think the signing of Party on deadline day really just tipped it over the edge. I think they've went from having a decent deadline day to having a decent window to having an actual really good window.
Finally had some steel in the midfield.
Well, that's it, yeah.
God knows how long.
I think their only blip really was not getting rid of Ozil just for his wages.
I guess, but there's also he's put on Twitter that he's going to pay for Gunnosaurus to come back from his own wages.
Give him another 5-year deal to keep him Gunnosaurus.
So I think overall that's probably a good keep for Arsenal. Yeah. In fact, on the subject of keeping players, that's another point that goes to Villa, in my opinion.
Jack Grealish.
A couple of players. I think Jack Grealish, obviously, he was linked quite heavily with Man United. John McGinn as well, he was linked with a lot of teams. I think he's a very good player. That's nothing to do with me being Scottish. I think he's genuinely a good player.
No, I mean, we were linked to him at one point at Newcastle, and but you'd happily take him. He's a good player.
Yeah.
So I think that's like another 2 signings for Villa, just being able to keep.
Well, they also signed new deals, didn't they? Well,
exactly, yeah. Like it doesn't look like they're going to be leaving. So, and if they do, they'll go for big money anyway. So it's like another 2 signings for Villa there. So I think they've done. Is there any other clubs you guys think that haven't been mentioned that had a particularly good window?
No, I think you've mentioned the big ones because I mean, like realistically, I mean, like the rest of them have had okay to falling windows. I mean, like for example, let me think. Just like I was going to say, like someone like Wolves, for example, didn't have a particularly bad window, but then again, losing players like Jota and Doherty obviously kind of gives you that like thing of, like you said before, keeping players can be just as good as a new sign.
Yeah, it really can.
I think quietly. Sorry, I'll let you finish.
Oh, sorry. I was just saying that like Wolves have replaced them with players like Semedo and I mean they brought in Fabian Silva for 35 million. He's 19, whatever.
Something like.
Nelson Semedo's another rant for later, by the way.
Yeah, I know. But like, I think a lot of it just screams a bit more panicky than good signs. I mean, like I said, if Fabian Silva becomes good, fair enough. But like, 35 million for a 19-year-old replace Jota, who was scoring you multiple goals in the Europa League at least at each season, etc. You know, like it's a bit of double-edged sword. It's a double-edged sword in that regard.
Okay, there's one other team maybe would be Leeds. Leeds have had a decent window. For being the new arrivals to the Premier League, obviously Leeds are a huge club, so they can draw players that maybe other clubs that are recently promoted couldn't draw.
Leeds brought a lot of players back in. Like obviously they brought Helder Costa back in. He's Jack Harrison. He was with them last season as well.
Helder Costa is permanent this time though.
Is he permanent?
Yes.
Yeah, he's there permanently now.
That's a good one.
They shored up their defence a little bit. They brought in Rafinha on deadline day, who looks like a half decent player.
Their only blip, I'd say, is like unfortunately they weren't able to bring back Ben White with it.
Yeah, that's true. I think they've had a
He's
good
got-
window. I don't think they were quite in the same ballpark as the other teams were talking about. I just thought they were maybe worth a quick mention.
Yeah.
What would you say for Newcastle? Because they were my quiet mention.
Okay.
Obviously, not hitting what it could have been. Before, without going into all of the takeover ins and outs.
You don't even have to mention the takeover, but like the Newcastle, like they still missed key areas. And
it's not the best one, but I mean,
no, it's a good window in terms of quality, in terms of signings. Like, I mean, you can't complain with Jeff Hendrick and Fraser for nothing. You can't complain with Wilson for 20 million, outscoring Joe Linton already.
at
Jamal
half the
Lewis looks
price.
yeah, exactly. Jamal Lewis looks like a hell of a young player, and then like the third choice keeper, young winger, fair enough.
Mark Gillespie, best keeper in the Premier League now.
Then we've let go of like players like Lejeune. Obviously, he's been injured a lot, fair enough, but we still haven't replaced centre backs, and we're already feeling it this season. We've only, I think, played one game so far with 2 fit centre backs in the league. Like, it's been a fullback that's been deputising, or Isaac Hayden, for example. Like, we have a serious injury problem with centre backs, and it was something that wasn't addressed in the window at all.
Yeah.
That was a letdown, but obviously getting rid of some dead weight as well, like Callback.
Yeah.
A lot of just totally unnecessary players removed from the club, which were on stupid wages as well.
Yeah,
I think
it has to be said. Jack Callback has been getting paid far too much for about the last 3 years. He's played 4 games, if that.
Yeah, he's not played a lot. Definitely.
No, in terms of good, I think in terms of good windows, that's probably where I'd.
Yeah, okay, that seems like a good enough transition. Newcastle seem like a good enough middle ground to transition from going to the teams that have done really well to teams that have maybe not performed as well. Jack, we'll start with you this time. Who's your? You had to pick one team that have had the worst transfer window in the league. Who is it?
Oh, I'm torn between maybe one or two, but I think I've got to go with West Ham.
Okay.
As my worst. Only bringing in terms of like real first team quality, Souček, who was there last season, to be losing obviously the young kid to West Brom, which even your club captain doesn't want. Felipe Anderson going out on loan seems funny to me as well. They haven't brought anyone sort of in to cover it.
Yeah.
They've just left it at a very stagnant state, which, given their performances last season, is not a safe place to be.
The issue with West Ham, though, is they've spent so much money on Haller, Felipe Anderson, Yarmolenko. I know he's not there anymore, but Hernandez. Like, they bought those players for like 50, 40, 30 million and just keep underperforming. And it's like Pablo Fornals as well, meant to be this great playmaker and can barely make the West Ham bench. Like,
there's something wrong behind the scenes because they're not gelling together at all.
There's a definite big issue with behind.
Yeah, I would agree. I think West Ham have been particularly poor in the window. I think they've got weaker, which obviously as a club you never want to hear. And I don't actually think there's that many in the clubs that many clubs in this window who have gotten weaker.
I think there's only one other club, and I'd say it was Burnley being weaker.
Okay, so is that your choice?
Yes, but Jack's got a second choice.
No, it's okay. We'll go for who you think your number one is, and then we'll go into our honourable mentions on this. because I have a club that neither said. Okay, so Burnley. Talk to us about Burnley.
I mean, Burnley speaks for itself. I mean, the only reason I'd say they probably didn't have a worse window than West Ham was, like you said, the whole weakening thing of like they didn't really get rid of anybody they're going to miss in terms of like quality. The issue being is the only first team they've even brought in is Dale Stevens.
See, I would
Like,
disagree. I think they've lost Jeff Hendrick.
Yeah.
To Newcastle, who I think is a big loss that they haven't compensated for.
I mean, I'm assuming they have some strategy with the young like players coming through, but like right now, Burnley only made one signing. I mean, I could still do it as well, though I can still see Burnley making it big, like maybe few buys from the Championship. Like Sean Dice likes these Championship buys.
That's possible, but then you've got to ask how much that'll actually improve their first team if all they're doing is delving into
with Ben Mee injured at the minute as well. I mean, Tarkowski is working with Kevin Long at the minute, and Burnley can't keep a clean sheet.
Yeah,
It's not what Burnley do. Burnley are a typical bully team. They, there are two big men up front who just batter your centre backs, and then like not as anything wrong with it, but like unfortunately this season, as we've seen with these ridiculous scorelines as well, the defending seems to be a thing of the past.
yeah. Well, the way the season started, for sure.
I think Burnley did well holding on to Tarkowski though, amid all the bids coming in for him.
Yeah,
Losing him would have been catastrophic for Burnley. I just don't feel that they've invested that money in a replacement of equal quality, or two players who could fill it.
No, they wouldn't have. I think that's all I've got on Burnley.
Yeah, Burnley didn't have a particularly interesting window. It was just kind of shit all round, wasn't it?
It was a classic Newcastle window where you basically don't buy anybody until the last minute, and it's like some like pass. I mean, don't get me wrong, Dale Stevens is like all right, but
he's not going to light the world on fire.
No, he's like 31 now. He's like still spring chicken. He's just going to be there.
Yeah, I agree.
It's not like he ever lit up the world for Brighton. I mean, please tell me wrong. Tell me if I'm wrong. If he had like the world class game, but I don't particularly remember one.
No, I don't either. Okay, so I've went a slightly different direction from you guys. This is probably going to get a lot of hate from certain corners of the internet, but honestly, I think the worst transfer window in the Premier League was Man United.
I'd agree.
Which I can see it being up there as one of the worst.
I feel like it's kind of controversial because I feel like they've actually brought in some really talented players. I think Donny van de Beek is a good player. Maybe not quite first team quality yet, but with the way Pogba is, very good player to have there. Alex Telles, the left back. I mean, I think he's a decent player.
He's very attacking.
Yeah, he is a very attacking left back, and the way Man United have been defending recently, I'm not necessarily sure it was the kind of player Man United should be bringing in.
Man United is centre back. That's what they've needed for like.
I'm gonna get onto that. Because I actually have a full thing. So I'll finish with the ins first. Cavani could be a good striker. He's different to what Man United have got, but good striker. I don't know anything about this Palestri, but he was recommended by Diego Forlan. Obviously, Man United like the look of him, so we'll see how that goes. But he's only a kid, so I think
10 million for a kid.
I think the biggest reason I've picked Man United is simply because every single one of these signings I just listed off were not their first choice. They were in the
Sancho. No.
They were in the market for so many big name players. How many seasons have they been getting linked with Gareth Bale? And he goes back to Spurs. When Man United can't compete with Spurs for a signing, that's a bad sign. Of course, you've got Jadon Sancho. So instead of, bringing in any of these big money wingers, did they not sign Ahmad Traore as well? Either way, he's not Jadon Sancho. He's not Gareth Bale.
Not even Dembele.
Nah. And then the centre backs. So Harry Maguire, £80 million last year. He had a decent season for Man United last year. Not compared to his price tag, but he had a good season. Lindelof is very hit and miss. Eric Bailly is useless. Chris Smalling went to Italy last year and had an outstanding season. And Man United let him go on deadline day and have not replaced him.
Am I right in thinking they still have Phil Jones as their alternative?
They do.
That says it all.
And I don't understand why. Like, apparently they were in the market for Koulibaly, but that never came through. It's just there's so many big name transfers that Man United could have made and tried to make, but couldn't force through. And for that reason, that's why I'm going with them as the worst. Because I think their business has been atrocious.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with you. But to be fair, one big thing for you is Sanchez's actually gone. Sanchez's wages have gone. I mean, I'd hope to God that they can reinvest them somewhere else. But
that's the thing, they haven't.
No.
Sanchez has been gone for ages, and where's that money went?
It's still getting plugged into Pogba.
I mean, what the worrying thing as well is when you look at it, you've got Marcus Rashford up front, you've got Martial who is inconsistent, and then you've got an agent Edison Cavani who could be your next Ibra and do great. And then Odion Ighalo is your other striker. And
Ighalo's such a weird one. I don't understand the Ighalo, but whatever.
I don't know why they got him last season.
Yeah,
it seemed panicked then.
It's like he played 2 games or something, 3 games,
and mainly the cup.
Yeah, the whole thing just seems a little bit meh.
As I mentioned for their outgoings as well, it's Angel Gomez leaving. Just completely released him. He's gone on a free. I mean, I think he's now in Portugal. Out of him and Lingard, in terms of which one they should have been keeping and letting their potential grow.
Well, yeah.
Lingard should have been out the door. 100% Lingard should have went.
The only argument,
and they've lost the talent.
The only argument you would have with that is that Jesse Lingard has Premier League experience. Say what you want about Lingard, but he's played a lot of games for Man United.
That is true.
So, in your moment of need, who do you want to bring on? The young kid who's played 5 first team games, or the guy that's hitting the sort of peak of his career? Yeah, well, he's hitting that. He should be in his peak right now. Who has played over 100 games for Man United. Yes, that's the only thing you would say. But that was my pick, and it's not even. I think they've brought in players who are decent, but I don't think they've strengthened their team at all.
There's a lot of issues in that team. I mean, honestly, I mean, this is just more personal opinion or anything, but the fact that you're still yet to get rid of Pogba, keep persisting with him, saying a lot. He's good on occasion for you, but he doesn't want to be there. That's so obvious. I mean, Van de Beek will obviously replace him when he goes, but it should be like that now. Pogba shouldn't be playing every game for you because he's not as good as everyone wants him to be. I mean, 80 million was it? I think
thereabouts, yeah.
I'm sorry, he's been a big disappointment, and mainly because of his attitude.
Yeah, I agree.
That's one of the problems if you drop him as well, because he'll just start kicking off and causing a lot of unrest in the squad. He's not the kind of player you want there. It's why Guendouzi got loaned out by Arsenal. Another sort of big-headed player, just get rid of them.
Does anybody else have any underperforming teams in this window? As I say, I don't actually think there's been that many. I think most of the teams have at least done decent.
I don't think of anyone else going backwards. There's maybe a couple of slightly more lackluster, but none that are glaringly bad.
So the only one I've kind of noticed that I would maybe say is bad, but it's not quite as bad as the other ones we spoke about, would be Fulham. Again, I think Fulham have brought in some decent players, but I don't feel like Fulham done anything to prepare themselves for the Premier League. I think they're probably just going to go straight back down because I don't think they have the players there to deal with it. But their director of football put out a tweet saying, discussing the transfer policy, which for one is insane. I don't understand why you would do that. But he sort of spoke about how all their options that they were going for kept falling through, and they were onto like their 5th choice left back or whatever, and it really just strikes me of a club that are in a similar to Manchester United, it just cannot get the business done.
Yeah.
What I'm noticing, looking at their incomings as well, you've got the likes of Lamina, Lookman, Loftus-Cheek, all of those are loan deals.
5 loan deals.
They also all begin with L,
Well observed. But the thing is, it's so many players that are coming in on loan, and they're the ones that bring out to me as they're more first choice for Fulham than the other signings.
Yeah,
and they're just not going to be there.
So if by some miracle they manage to stay up with these, players, next season they're going to have to go into the transfer market and do it all again. And if they want to stay long term in the Premier League, then they're going to need to get the finger out and actually sign some players. Because I think Scott Parker might actually be a pretty decent manager, but with what he's working with at that Fulham team, I just do not see them staying in the Premier League.
I mean, Michael Hector is still that first choice centre back.
Exactly. I just feel there was so many areas that they needed. They didn't even need to spend on like a world class talent, but
I know one thing for Fulham that I remember seeing was had the centre back Marlon from Sassuolo, who were really close to getting across the line, but he failed the medical last minute.
Yeah,
and that deal there kind of summed up Fulham's transfer window in regards of it doesn't matter what they tried to do, they just couldn't get the players and they wanted to.
Yeah,
I mean, Lamina is being proven the fact that he's nothing special. He's not going to keep you up.
Not by
Harrison
himself.
Harrison Reed they had on loan last season, so they brought him in again. Lookman didn't impress at Leipzig after his move from Everton.
Didn't impress at Everton, really, did he?
No. It from Torino, he was I know right at Torino, but again, the Chelsea reject, wasn't he, at the time?
Yeah.
And then Loftus-Cheek is a gamble as well, because he can play well, but been in and out the last couple of years with injury, and then can he basically do what he did at Palace again? Is what Fulham are risking on.
Well, that's it. I think Fulham were worth a quick mention just because I don't think they've done enough.
Do you think they've done better than the last time they came up? Because I feel they've gone for a very different approach in that this time they haven't just thrown out 100 million in transfers, which didn't work out last time.
I feel like they went with a lot. I feel like if they can stay up, I think if they stay up, it's much better. It means they have that money still there to spend. And I think it's easier to attract players when you can say, right, we survived relegation last year, and we're bringing in these players that are an upgrade. So we're going to survive relegation. I think it's easier to attract players that way. However, if they just go straight back down, then it's pretty much just exactly the same thing, isn't it? Just with less money involved.
Yeah.
Yeah. As well, I mean, I think one of their issues as well is they've still got players like you said, from that last match. I mean, like Terry is still at Fulham, or he
Uh,
might have made a last minute move to Galatasaray. I can't remember exactly from that, but like, oh no,
no, I think
hasn't.
he stayed.
He stayed this season, but like
Yeah.
he appallingly last time in the Premier League. Like you've got players like him and I mean obviously they brought in Areola as a goalkeeper, and but like what Sergio Rico was who had last time, who's now ESG's second choice. And like
Yeah.
there's no like backbone. That team has changed, but also got the same exact issue. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
I
I mean,
agree. I think
Kenny came up last time with them, didn't do great. Mitrovic came up with them, scored well, but like again, you can't just rely on a striker when your defense is that bad.
no.
Obviously, they've lost since then. They lost Ryan Sessegnon to Spurs, and then there's a lot of questions.
Yeah, I don't think Fulham will survive. I think they'll just go straight back down. I think it'll be a miracle if they do so. Okay, let's we'll move on a bit here. I don't want to spend too long on this because we've already been talking for about half an hour, 35 minutes. I feel like we've already discussed a lot of the transfers. But if you guys could highlight one transfer that you wanted to talk about a little bit more as far as a really good move for both the player and the club, who would you say, Dean?
Your player and club.
Well, yeah, the best signing you would say.
Best signing in the window. Apologies for that as well. That was a big firework.
All right.
Signing in the window. I mean, Rodriguez definitely seems like the best for terms of like quality and you know exactly what you'll get out of them.
Yeah.
Up and coming, like I think Havertz is a hell of, like I said before, hell of a signing. I mean, I can't. It was biased as it is. I really can't look past 20 million for Callum Wilson. Seems like a bargain for what you get.
Yeah, I would agree. I think Callum Wilson's a really good signing. I think he suits the way Newcastle play quite well. I think it'll be a good move for him. I think he'll score a lot of goals at Newcastle, so obviously it's a good move for Newcastle as well. Yeah, I can agree with that.
But if it's for club and player, I might even go because I mean the only thing with Everton that I worry about is a couple injuries to Everton. That's it. The squad will start falling down the table. I mean, like Jack said earlier, the midfield's been rebuilt, but the problem is a lot of that old midfield has to come in for rotation.
Yeah.
But in terms of that, I think best player and for the like to keep them where they are, slash kind of build on what they are. I know he's not played yet much this season, but I don't think you can ignore like Thiago at Liverpool. Like,
okay,
Thiago's a fantastic player.
It's a club and a player that we haven't spoken about at all yet. So yeah, let's have a little chat about that then. So I
30
think
million.
Yeah, I think Liverpool's weakest area of the pitch is the middle of midfield. I think their defence is strong. Obviously, they have one of the best goalkeepers in the world, so they don't need to worry about that. And then obviously their front three is world class, and they brought in Jota to back that up. But yeah, I think their midfield was, especially the middle of midfield, was I think the weakest position that they had, which is saying something because it is not a weak midfield.
But creativity in the middle of the park, I think, more nice.
And
I mean, like Henderson, Fabinho, like defensively wise, you think that's fine.
Yeah.
But then it's that transitional play. It's like that. That's where I'd say their weakest point which I think Thiago fixes.
For the money they spent on him, I think he is a very significant upgrade on any other central midfielder in that Liverpool team. And I actually I'm one of these people. I really rate what Jordan Henderson brings to Liverpool,
No, I think he's great. Like,
but he's not a technically good footballer. He's not he's decent. Like, he's good enough, but he's not like a technically excellent footballer.
Liverpool missed that man in the middle who will get them 10 assists this season.
Yes, and I
They're
think
De Bruyne, they're Silva, kind of.
yes, exactly, and that's what
their
I think.
option of that.
Yeah, that's exactly what they've brought in Thiago. I agree. I think Thiago's a very, very good signing for Liverpool.
Like I said, because it's club and player, that logic thing as well. That's his thing.
Yep.
If you want to keep challenging for titles, Champions League, get yourself a born winner, and he came from possibly the most successful club in the world last season. I mean,
yep. Agreed. Okay, Jack. You had to pick one player.
I kind of want to say Gareth Bale.
Okay.
Like, obviously, with him not being fit, it's not that easy to say yet. But I think on the basis of it, he's coming in. He's gonna get football again, and he's gonna get away from that environment at Madrid where they didn't want him. No one wanted him to stay at the club.
No, he was not appreciated.
Even the message they put out on their social media when he left was blunt and an attempt at being civil at best. So obviously for him, that's fantastic. It gets him back into the mix. And really, in terms of the Welsh team, there's only so long he can go without playing football at his age before they'd have to say, look, we can't just pick you as who you are.
Well, he's out of fitness as well. Like, he's not playing, so...
And for Spurs, it's a great move, obviously. It's fantastic cover. It's a lot of publicity and income from that as well.
Also, I genuinely... If
the
Gareth
thing with
Bale...
Spurs,
Sorry, Jack, on you go.
The thing with Spurs is, financially, they needed someone to come in and make a lot of money, and that's what Bale will do.
Yeah.
Obviously, a lot of new shirts for Bale, the homecoming, because they've just bought a new stadium for about $1 billion.
Yeah. And
Amazon pulled out of that deal for a stadium name share, and that was worth 300 to 500,000, I think, or 300 to 500 million. Sorry, potentially a year for 3 years. I don't know the exact numbers, but those numbers were floating about for a time period. The NFL have just pulled out, given obviously the current situation that everyone's got to deal with right now.
Obviously,
so they've paid for the retractable pitch, all of that money onto that, which is gone. All of the NFL rights gone. They're in a bit of a problem time when it's like, well, we have no money right now. But to bring in Bale, he's not going to get in the billions of pounds worth of debt, but it's a phenomenal player where you're not paying a transfer fee. Everyone's going to want to pay to come see him when fans are allowed back in the stadium.
Yeah.
I think that for the club is, rather than on the pitch quality, well, it is on the pitch quality, but it's more than that, I think.
I think if Gareth Bale comes in and plays as well as he can, as we've seen him play before, then I'm going to 100% agree with you. Because I think having Son, Harry Kane, and Gareth Bale as your front three is a title winning front three.
Who was Bale with when he left? Who was his partners up top?
Oh, now you're asking the question.
It wasn't Son and it wasn't Kane.
No, it wasn't.
So that's an upgrade for him as well.
That was like Defoe and Adam Bayo or something like that.
Yeah,
Don't get me wrong, Defoe is good, but he's no Harry Kane.
I think that's a title winning front three. And let's be honest, if any manager is going to win the league with Spurs, it's going to be Jose Mourinho, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. So
Lewis, what would you say your worst is?
My worst or my best?
Yeah, best. I'm still thinking about team who's done the worst.
Okay, I think there's been a lot of really good signings here, right? I think Ruben Diaz to Man City could be a very, very good signing. Because I think him and Laporte at centre back possibly could be the best centre back partnership in the league. If
When he spent on it, it should be.
well, yeah, of course. He's definitely not a cheap player.
I mean, he looked solid against Leeds at the weekend.
Yeah, no, he's a good player, and I think if him and Laporte can form a partnership and both perform well, it could be the best partnership in the league. I think so. Obviously, you've mentioned James Rodriguez. I'd say as far as value for money for the club, I think James Rodriguez has been the best signing. I'm kind of going to go out there a little bit. I think Edward Mendy for Chelsea.
Considering what it fixes.
22 million pound they spent on him. They've had the issue with Kepa for 3 seasons now, 2 seasons at least, since they signed him. They broke the record for the amount of money spent on a goalkeeper to bring him in, and he's been nothing but issues. And by the sounds of things, he's been quite a bit of an issue behind the scenes as well. I think bringing in that extra goalkeeper will do a lot to settle the entire team. And I think it's a really good platform for the player, because a lot of people will not know who Edward Mendy is. I don't know much about him myself. But from what I've read and what I've seen of him, he looks a good goalkeeper. There's a really good opportunity for him to come in and stamp his authority and say, I am a good enough goalkeeper to be here. But I also think it might help settle the rest of Frank Lampard's dressing room if Kepa doesn't have as big a role on the pitch.
Yeah, no, I can agree with that, because I mean, after the whole debacle with Sorry, wasn't it? In the cup?
Yeah.
Yeah, that went to his head, that sort of power.
And I think that's kind of why I'm going for that. And I think they've done a good job. They haven't overpaid. They've got a really good deal for what looks like a solid goalkeeper. So if he is a solid goalkeeper and he performs well, I think that could be the signing of the window.
No, I agree. Because like, in terms of like how important a goalkeeper can be. I mean, like, I mean, we've seen it with City and we've seen it with Liverpool in the last couple of seasons. That's how they push their title challenges forward.
Yeah.
Like I said, Liverpool bought Alisson, and City bought Edison after the whole Claudio Bravo.
Yeah.
And then you just see how much it can transform a team, having that confidence in who's behind it.
Yep, definitely. I agree.
Especially for that price, like you mentioned, you can't go wrong.
For 22 million, you really can't.
A lot younger as well.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. I think we're just about finished up here, but there's just a quick one I want to do. And I actually kind of think that we all might have the same answer here, but we'll see. So, either, I don't want to say the worst transfer, because I think it's very hard to tell at this point of the season, with no evidence to go on, what the worst transfer is. But I will say either what you think will be the worst transfer or the weirdest transfer of the window. And Jack, we'll start with you this time.
Ooh, so in terms of worst and weirdest, I can come up with sort of 2 different ones that I've said. I think one of the weirdest ones that I noticed was Brewster to Sheffield.
Okay,
I think that could honestly be my worst at the same time.
Okay,
because I believe they paid quite a lot of money for him as well.
Ryan Brewster. It was about £23 million.
Because he's never hit the level that was expected of him coming through the youth teams of England. Obviously, he was on loan last season, and he had a good goal scoring record, but he was in the Championship for that as well.
Yeah, he's never really been exposed to the Premier League, so I mean, maybe Sheffield United have seen something. because I like the way that they've recruited so far. There's quite a big outlay for Sheffield United, and I don't feel like they would have just spent the money willy nilly. Like I think they must have a reason for having
If the
went for him.
if the gamble pays off, great. Like all power to obviously him and Sheffield. But as it stands, we're just coming in with not a lot of info on him and quite a sizable transfer fee based on that alone. For
I
a club
agree.
like Sheffield, who don't have necessarily the biggest war chest for transfers anyway.
Yeah, I agree. I think I do agree with you, Jack. The only reason that it wasn't my weirdest or worst was just because I think Chris Wilder's such a good manager that he definitely wouldn't have gone after Ryan Brewster himself.
No,
That makes sense. He has done bits with that team.
So that's the only reason. I feel like there might be a reason behind why they've signed him, and I think it might become apparent. But then there's every possibility that it won't. Okay, Dean.
Okay, so this is a bit awkward because I mean, the worst kind of things. I want to say stuff like I don't rate Southampton bringing in Theo Walcott, for example, from Everton. I think that's just trying to live off past glory. And let's be real here, he's not really shone in the last 6 years, so like
Yeah,
you
I
can't
can
really expect
agree.
anything different. Or like Callum Robinson, who the West Brom bought from Sheffield, couldn't score in the bloody Premier League last year. Why do you think different this year?
Yeah.
Like, well, I think in terms of how much they cost, looking at how he's played so far, like to be fair, the 2 games I think he's played that, and also just how he did well last season. I've got to say, like, Semedo is not high on my life. Nelson Semedo, I don't think is going to be a good buy.
Okay.
I think he possibly could be the worst.
This is the one.
35 million, and I mean, if you watch that Champions League final, for example, he was one of the main reasons.
He was the entire reason.
Yeah, I mean, like, I know you can't judge a player off one game, but like, he's had multiple games where he's the big issue. Like, he can't defend. And
Okay, so
as a replacement for Doherty, who, to be fair, was one of the best attacking fullbacks in the league, I think it's poor. I think it's very poor.
this is the transfer that I thought all three of us were going to be unanimous on, and I thought it was. I thought all three of us would say Nelson Semedo, although I think Jack, you've made a really good point with Ryan Brewster. But yeah, I would agree with you, Dean. I think Nelson Semedo has done nothing to warrant being a £35 million player.
He's played for Barcelona. That's it.
He has done. Yeah, he's done nothing to really warrant replacing Matt Doherty, which is saying something because I don't think Matt Doherty is like a world class player.
He was very good in Wolves' system.
Yeah, exactly. I think he's a good player. But I actually think Nelson Semedo might be a downgrade.
Yeah, no, I would agree.
And for £35 million for a right back in the current financial climate is a lot of money.
I think based on his price tag, yes. But if we've seen anyone get the best out of a Portuguese player, it's going to be Nuno.
Well, yeah, that's true. He fits what Wolves do. So maybe we're wrong here. But I think Nelson Semedo is the worst transfer. Is the weirdest anyway. I just don't understand the price tag or why they thought he was the replacement.
Would you say panic buy?
Yes.
Slightly, yeah.
I also think, to be fair, if I was going a little further, maybe more of an unnecessary sign, considering like who they are currently dropping to the bench. I'd go back to Chelsea and I'd mention Thiago Silva again. At 36, I mean, his debut was shocking.
Awful.
West Brom. They have seem to have frozen out Rudiger from the team for no particular reason. Obviously, might be something behind the scenes, but like, you know, like to play Thiago Silva instead of your best defender. And I'm sorry, like Thiago Silva, like was good at PSG. He was good, you know, back at Milan and stuff like that. And hell was great in the Champions League final. But he's 36, never played in the Prem before this year, and to be honest, I just don't see him. I know he's free, but I can see him costing games more than he winning them.
Yeah, I
in
kind
the
of
long
agree.
run.
Chelsea have done a lot of weird things with free transfers, actually.
Yes,
Just looking at their outgo and letting Pedro and Willian go with no money coming back.
oh well, that's wages coming back though for that.
It's wages, but they're going straight on Thiago Silva. I can't imagine he's anything below 200,000 a week. He was at PSG.
Yeah, I wouldn't have thought so. Okay. I think we've pretty much covered everything. If you guys have any thoughts, drop them down in the comments below. We'll read through the comments and reply. If there's anybody's opinions who you thought was way off, or if you generally agree with what we were saying, then again, please let us know. But yeah, this has just been our quick take on the Premier League's transfer window. So yeah, thanks very much for listening. It's been an absolute pleasure. And we'll see you next week where we talk about something completely fucking different. Bye.
See you later.